I saw this really cool shot on Dribbble the other day by Nicolas Girard. It's like this kind of cyberpunk sine wave thing. And the first thing I thought of when I saw it was, oh, I wonder if I could make something like that in Flinto. Now, this guy does a lot of like motion graphics, 3D stuff, pretty intense animation. Not the kind of thing Flinto's meant for, but I had an idea that I could probably recreate this. And so, just as a challenge, I did it. I'm not trying to like copy his style or anything. I just wanted to see if I could make it. So in Flinto for Mac, here's what I did. First, I just drew a bunch of rectangles. I got one rectangle here, and then some skinny rectangles here that are these vertical and horizontal lines. Then I drew a filled in rectangle and put a shadow on it for this glowing rectangle in the corner. And then I had to make this sine wave. So the way I did the wave was just to draw a vector up and down like this. Then I turn on the border, turn off the fill. You could select all the points and choose the distribute button to make them all evenly spaced. Then select the ones across the top and use vertical align. Then select the ones across the bottom and use vertical align. And now you've got like a nicely spaced, even up and down shape. And if you turn on the radius, so here I've got radius and you can adjust that. And then you start to get what looks like a sine wave. The next thing I did was to put it in a group. So if you put that in a group and then turn on clip for that group, you can resize the group and it will clip off the content, something like that. So let me bring this side in. So now you can imagine how in the behavior designer, what I did was just shift it over, and since it's inside this clip group, it looks like it's kind of just growing. You can even see it as I do this. So let's take a look at how I set up the behavior. I'm going to delete this. I just made that to show you how I created the sine wave. But I've got this group here that has a behavior on it. There's an oval in it, which is like this little dot that goes up and down. And then there's the clipping group here with the sine wave inside of it. And you can see that it extends beyond the left and right a bit. So I just have a little extra space. Okay, let's go into the behavior designer and check this out. I've got three states. Got the initial state, and then I've got this new state where all that happens to the circle is it just moves down. And the wave moves to the right. So it moves to the right so that we're in the center of one of these upper peaks, and then it goes down to the center of one of the lower peaks. And it's right where it's getting cut off there. And then I've got a third state where it just moves even further to the right, and now it's back to the one of the top peaks here. And so it looks exactly the same as it looked in the first state. You know, the initial state compared to this third state, they look exactly the same. And the little ball moves down and then back up. So I hook these all up with timer links. So from the initial state, 0 millisecond timer link that goes to new state. From here, 0 millisecond timer goes to new state 1. Should have given those better names. And from there, I use the skip animation option. That's this little icon here, and it's blue because I turned it on. And that's for this timer link, which goes back to the initial state. So if I start at the beginning, we're here, then we go to this state, then we go to this state, then it skips back to the initial state and starts over again. So you don't see that skipping back part because I have the skip animation option, and that'll make it continuously look like it's just a continuous flow that goes on forever. And I set the easing of this vector to be linear, and it's 500 milliseconds. So between each of these states, it takes half a second. And then the circle, it moves with an ease in out, which kind of matches the curve here so that it moves in the appropriate way and doesn't get off the track. Okay, so I've got one other behavior for this rectangle in the upper left corner. Let's go into the behavior designer and take a look at that one. What I did here was I set up a lot of different states. And in some of the states, the rectangle is faded out a little bit and the blur of the shadow is reduced a bit. So you can see the shadow here, the blur is 12. But in the initial state, it's 27. And then it just goes back to exactly how it was. And then it goes here, the blur's 12, back to the initial appearance, and then back down, back to the initial appearance. And this one, it disappears entirely. So I just wanted it to kind of blink in and out in different ways. And I have timer links going between all of these. So 100 milliseconds, it goes to here, waits 10 milliseconds, and then goes to here, 50, and then it goes here, 10 goes here. And so it's like really fast timer links. And then the easing for this shape is 25 milliseconds. So the animation happens really fast, and then the timer links shoot really fast, and then the effect is that it's just blinking on and off. All right, so that's how I set all this stuff up. I'm going to put the file in the description of this video, so if you want to play with this, you can download that. I'll also put a link to the guy's Dribbble shot. You should follow him, give him a like. Really cool shot. Okay, so here's the preview. It turned out pretty good. You know, it doesn't have all the nuances of his. It doesn't have quite the same style, but functionally, it does the same thing. And that was what my experiment was. I just wanted to see, is it possible to create that in Flinto for Mac? And I'm happy to report that it worked.